Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
He is somebody that helps leaders, owners of companies, entrepreneurs up their game, move things forward, become more profitable, better lead their teams as well. And he's here today. If you have any kind of question that you're dealing with in your professional life, even your personal life, Randy Swaim is the guy to ask. Instant feedback, Steve at gmail.com. He's got the website coachingforrelevance.com. Today, we're going to talk about something called situational awareness and how that affects you and your organization. Randy, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. It's good to be back as always, Steve.
And I know we dug into this a little bit a few times back.
Yeah.
But situational awareness, and interestingly, you are a pilot. You train people to become pilots. Situational awareness in that category, that's big, right?
It's critical. And actually, when you talk about leading a team in a rapidly changing environment, that's maybe slightly unpredictable or whatever, it's critical. And it's a little deeper than most people realize when you're looking at it from that leadership aspect.
So how about some examples to apply situational awareness?
Well, I tell you what I'll do is I'll kind of throw this out, because one of the things that people have a tendency to do, and then I'll give you an example from our last radio show that will sort of dovetail out of that, because it kind of goes along with what you just said.
By the way, he used the word dovetail, another aviation reference. Keep going.
There you go. Yeah. But the bottom line on it, and I'll just simply say this: you would be surprised at how many times I've heard even a pilot instructor talk about a given situation that come up, and the instructor has said, "Oh, well, that should have been like this," but it wasn't. Not everything in today's world, not everything in a pilot's world, not everything in today's world as a whole always fits a rote academic picture. And you remember in the last show, we were talking about the concept of undergo versus overcome. And you may remember that undergo is when you're like going, oh, and you're sort of getting beat down and all that kind of stuff. And you feel like you're sick, and so you just go and let the sickness just do what it wants to you, kind of thing. Whereas overcome is, when you see people on the top of the mountain going, yeah, because they overcame everything to get up to it and everything. But here's the thing about that, and I mentioned this in the last meeting, in the last show we had, and I'll dovetail that using that same term kind of thing here, because it does bring out a concept and a deeper understanding and sense of true situational awareness. And here's the thing, the idea is, remember last week I told how people in today's world have a tendency, if you're coming up on this struggle point in your journey, kind of thing with your team, most people today just say, well, hey, just put that aside and go this way, go over here, go over there, and you know what? There's times where that can be applicable. There's times where that can be valuable. There's times where it can be right, but it's not just either or, because the thing about it is, if you totally avoid a little bit of the challenge, your team doesn't grow and become and achieve. That happens when you've got a little bit of a challenge there that you're going forward. And so one of the things when you talk about a true situational awareness, it's not just about making it easy. And I think you remember, Steve, on the last show, I mentioned if you just completely go aside that, you might get over here to this level, but that might not be anywhere close to the level you were trying to get to. It may be you got here, but you wanted to get it here, kind of thing. And those aspects are critical. And, is your team really growing, or are you just constantly trying to talk them up and, all that kind of stuff? But there's a time where in your leadership, having a clear, when you talk about true situational awareness, there's an aspect where you got to bring in this aspect of, am I truly aware of how I should use this challenge here right now? and really get there, because as you grow and overcome and develop and achieve through that challenge, you may be at a much higher level than you would have thought when you just bypassed it. And so part of the aspect of situational awareness is, having a complete understanding of the factors involved, a complete understanding perhaps of the benefit of being connected to that challenge for a little bit. Or is it something that is totally destructive and we need to step away from it, kind of thing. And all of that, what people have so often a time to do today, they have a tendency to do today, is to fit it in rote academic things. Well, that's a challenge, so go over here, kind of thing. Is that really what you want? Can you really answer that question? And if nothing else, even if you do have to kind of make it where 80% you're walking away from it, kind of thing, can you still have the conversations with your team that help them take the situation that it was and truly develop and overcome? Or are you simply, trying to pat them on the back for the fact that they just missed the entire thing? And so there's this whole aspect when you talk about the journey of your team, that it's not just totally academic. And when you talk about this aspect of situational awareness, because here's the thing, when you're talking about a pilot, and particularly when you're talking about a military, go figure, not everything fits a rote academic thing. Can you make the right decisions? Do you learn and grow from the situation you were in? Are you really, in your flight crew, are you becoming better because of the experience you had and all of that? And as a leader in your team, are you truly leading that? And there's some times where somebody may say, oh man, this. And if you speak to them in such a way and connect with them in such a way that, they know that you agree with what they just said, but you know what? There's a sense within them that you think they got what it takes. And they get the confidence and courage, and they pursue and they overcome and they break through it, and they go, wow. And then on the other side of it, they reach this level that you hadn't thought about even before. And it's like, you guys did awesome. And
What I'm getting here,
so that's just a different, it's a deeper sense of true situational awareness. So go ahead.
It's more about the journey and not the destination. Just to put, even to look at it that way, what did your team learn from this whole situation moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you didn't hit the mark. Maybe it wasn't exactly what you were intending or planning. You got somewhere, which I guess is a plus. But how did you get there? What did we learn along the way? What can we take away from that and apply it moving forward? Might that sound reasonable?
Yeah, and but also, as the leader, did I have true situational awareness so that I truly understood whether this is something we should just avoid or not? Kind of thing. And if it's somebody who's just being ridiculous and unethical and all that, you need to kind of say, we're not going to do that, kind of thing. And but when you're talking about your journey, there are aspects about that sometimes people don't understand the depth of the true situational awareness. And as a leader for your team, not only do you have to have that deeper insight into the real situational, awareness thing, but are you modeling it and developing it in your team? So that, there's times where in their team, when they go forward on some situation down the road, where they go, you know what? I recognize this, but you know what? Yeah, we can get through this. We got this. And you know what? As a flight crew, sometimes that's what you got to have, because, the things that come on are kind of unexpected, sometimes. When they do, does the flight crew, the two pilots, or maybe the two pilots and the flight attendant or whatever, kind of thing, or if it's a military, the two pilots and the professionals in back or whatever, do they have the insight to really sense the truth of the situation rather than just going to rote, superficial things. And so when you're talking about situational awareness, particularly in businesses and leadership teams and all that, when you're talking about a changing world that's a little bit unpredictable and not, here's the thing, the different people you have on your team, the different environments that you're in, the different situations that arise, all of those can be just a little bit different. Do you have the ability to create the real clarity in both your mind and also in your vision, but also in your team, so that they know what we need to do, and they get the right decision there, so that when it's all said and done, man, they got results that nobody in the company would have understood or been amazed at. And so that's just something to think about.
We have Vicky checking in from San Diego.
Cool, Vicky.
Yeah, interesting challenge in her life right now. Instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com is how she reached us. She says, we need to lay off a few staff members. Should I let the entire team know beforehand or just make the changes? Really appreciate your insight.
You know what, Vicky, as much as I hate to say it, it's not a single answer to that. Because really, in respects, if you need to lay off a few people, one of the things is, do you have clarity on who your people are? What is the real value they get? But also, when you're when you have to lay somebody off, there's probably some clarity on in terms of why that is. And laying off isn't firing, so you're not being, anti-personal to them per se, but in the sense of it, I think that there's a situation where you want to be a little bit careful. What you don't want to do, and this is part of the question she asked, and I think it's a valuable question, but what you don't want to do is communicate to people in such a way that they know about it before the people you're going to lay off know about it.
Well, she said the entire team. So I guess what she's saying, should I get everybody together and say, listen, we've had some changes, company didn't hit numbers. We got
to decrease our people, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. Or just let the people go and then, kind of circle back if anybody wants to talk about it. It's a tough one. I wouldn't know what to do, whether
what I would do if I was the leader in that situation, what I would do is I would say that having a conversation with the team is valuable, because everybody up front knows why it's happening, and it's not specifically about those particular people, because one of the questions that your team will have is why, and the other part of it is why were they chosen. And so the first thing that I would say for Vicky there, the first thing that I would say, if that was me, I would say I would call those individuals in one-on-one and just make sure they're aware of it before I had that team meeting. And then after they know about it, so it's not a shock in the meeting, and probably based on, what she's saying about it, it's not something that, you are the one, you're just not doing your job. You're not doing good. We don't like you, all that kind of stuff. No, it's not that at all. It's just, we got to do this. And, and so letting them know that it's not personal for them, but this is just the decision we've got to make. And then when they already know about it, they may come to the meeting, or they probably won't. But when you have the meeting and you let everybody know before the layoff is official, kind of thing, then people understand the why, and that it's not personal. It's not any dysfunction that they had. That's probably the way I would do it, is have the one-on-one conversation with the people that you're going to have to lay off, just so that they are aware of it. And then, you could do that if the people were doing a good job, but you've just got to reduce the number of people, and it's not about their contributions or anything like that kind of thing, you might kind of let them know that this is not personal for you. It's just something we've got to do, and that kind of thing, so that they know it's not any of that. And also, if they go to someplace else, would you be able to kind of speak nicely of them if the company were to call you? And you might say yeah, kind of thing. But to give them that sense of the why and the real why behind it, and let them know probably one-on-one before you had that meeting, because and they probably wouldn't come to the meeting after they know they're going to be leaving and everything. But at least after that, if somebody walks up to them in the hallway and says, hey, I heard about this, and they go, huh, kind of thing, they're aware of it. So it's not a shock. That's kind of what I would say in general.
I guess the challenge would be, after you let the team members know, let's say it's 3 and we're going to have to let you go at this time, you do run the risk of them speaking to others, as they walk out of the meeting, they go back to their colleagues. You're not gonna believe it. I just got fired. So maybe that could create some negativity where she's wondering, if Vicky is wondering, maybe I should let everybody know we have some changes coming and then attack it. Either way, it's
see either way, what I would say is that where Vicky's going with that is very logical, and I agree with it. What you want to do is have the meeting with the team, because you want them to know the why and what's really going on. It's nothing personal. It's nothing because they were screwing up or anything like that. But on the other hand, too, is because you do want to know that. Okay. But what I would also say is, what you don't want is necessarily the 3 people that are getting laid off, if that's the number, in the meeting, finding out that they're the ones in the meeting. I would say you would probably want to make that known one-on-one. But then, after you have if you're going to have the team meeting, let's say on Tuesday, Monday morning or Tuesday morning before the meeting, I might call the 3 of them in and just have a quick meeting with them, so that it's fairly quick and all that. But it's a good point. It's a good question she asks, but you do want to make sure it's careful, because you want to make sure that people realize that you don't hate them. You're not being mean to them. You're trying to do what's best for the team, and making sure the team is aware of the causes behind that. I think that's very key.
As is honesty, because I'll share. Years ago, I was working for a smaller company, left a big company for a smaller company. It was an interesting change, different responsibility. And the owner would tell me, we're making numbers. It's, some challenges every once in a while. And I would always say to him, and I was in management there.
Yeah.
I would always say, if anything's going to change, just please let me know it's coming. We've doesn't mean be getting fired tomorrow, but I just want to let you know that we didn't make numbers this quarter. Things aren't looking that good. Just want to let you know. He would always say, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll let you know. And probably two different times, we're having conversations. Anything's going to change. Just let me know. Give me a heads up. It could be months later. At least I had a heads up. Woke up one morning in November, as a matter of fact, on a Saturday, to an email where I was released.
Yeah.
So he wasn't honest. He didn't. That's all I asked, and he didn't honor that forward.
And that's a key aspect that you're talking about, because when you're going to have to let somebody go, you want to know, to the best that you can as a leader, that when they walk out of the office for the last time, that they at least appreciate their time there with you. And they do have a sense that there's nothing anti-personal about this or anything like this, that it's not, it's just they had to make a choice, but it wasn't that I was so poor and, unworkable and all that kind of stuff. But so that, but that's a key, the way they walk out and their experience with it is part of your responsibility as a leader.
I like the way you put that. Your responsibility as a leader. I think a lot of times maybe that's forgotten. that
You know,
leaders have big responsibilities.
and you know what they do? It often is forgotten because one of the things that people have a tendency to do is to just go through the rote square filling. Well, we got to let this person go. Okay, I got to go tell them. Okay, go do that, kind of thing, and get on to whatever's next in your list of things. But the responsibility sometimes is in the way that you do it. And that's what a lot of people tend to forget in today's world. But you know what? That is a leader's responsibility to make that done right and not just rote academic stuff. And because I tell you what, and this is what a lot of people forget, but once you do that, however you do it, it represents the reputation of the company and your office and you. Because you know what? They talk when they get out there.
Oh yeah.
And so the bottom line is the way you do that is everything. It's the way that you do and employ your leadership responsibility on that. So that's I'm glad that she asked that question, because that's a very valid question. And it's a key aspect to it.
And that will follow potentially her around if it didn't go well,
Mm-hmm.
For years, if not forever. I still remember managers I had, and I'm not the only one that didn't
Mm-hmm.
feel that they had the best management style.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody would say the same thing. I don't want to feed into it. I would take my
Yep.
own view of it. But again, the managers who said, "Oh, open door policy, come in here. We can talk about anything." It really wasn't.
It's like, oh, I'm so busy. Come back later. That kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or that uncomfortable feeling of being called into your manager's office where
Yeah.
you got somebody who's powerful and then meek, employee. Not that it has to feel like a partnership, but
Mm-hmm.
you have to feel like you're part of the team. And there was one in particular that would do it. And like, oh,
Yeah. And in fact, one picture of this I've shared on a show, probably almost a year ago. But you may remember that there was this guy when I was a site manager and the contract representative for our DoD Strategic Air Defense Training Group at Griffiths Air Force Base. You remember there was one person, one of the pilots in our group, that I had to, kind of engage in a little bit of a discipline conversation with him. And it wasn't anything, it wasn't anything necessarily ethical, but it was really causing a problem in the team synergy and thing. And we had that conversation, and it was interesting going with what you're saying. I was in my office kind of working on a couple of things the next morning, and I heard, as he knocked on the wall there, and I looked up and it was him, and he said, "You got a second?" I said, "Come on in." And he walked in and he closed the door and he said, "Hey, I'm just wondering something." I said, "What's that?" And he looked at me and he said, "Is there any chance that we can make sure, not communicate that conversation that we had to the headquarters?" I looked at him and I said, "Nobody outside of our detachment here knows anything about this, and they don't need to." And he said, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, my commitment is I will change what you talked to me about." And I said, "That's all I want." And it worked out okay. I watched it for the next few weeks, and you could tell the way he was actually connecting with the other people was much more positive and respectful. And so it just one little picture, that is all.
We have about a minute left.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Vicky's situation.
Mm-hmm.
In 60 seconds for you, Randy, what was the most challenging situation in leading a team that you had to deal with?
To be honest, I think this one was one of them that I just mentioned. And it's because what he was doing was arrogant on his own, but he was really disrupting these. And then there was one time at the airport that I trained at where there was, and I shared this, there was one instructor who was playing little control freak games, and he during a meeting, in a team meeting, he came up and was playing control freak games, and he accused me. He said, "You're just trying to control everybody." I said, "No, you're the one doing that." And I said, "Here's look at your behavior right now." And I said, "Match that up to words that I have said." And everybody in the room kind of went like this. And I said, you're the one playing that game. And I had over half the people in that meeting come up to me over the next 3 to 4 days and applauded me for how I did that. And so, you know what? It's just one example of when you're dealing with that and you have to interject with people, correct their behavior and all that. But yeah, it's just those couple of thoughts with Vicky, it would be good. Just make sure they know before the meeting, but communicate it in a way where they have a sense of your feeling for them and your, professional connection to them and everything. But also that leadership responsibility with it that a lot of people forget about.
Yeah. And even like we said, the honesty and the transparency. If you offer that, you can never lose.
That's right.
You'll always be ahead of the game in terms of your integrity. And
true.
People see you and respect you. And, like Mom always said, don't burn any bridges.
There you go. That's true.
Website is coachingforrelevance.com. You are available. Somebody has questions like Vicky, certainly on a deeper level in terms of coaching and working with people. If somebody has a question to just start the conversation, is there any fee with that?
No, what I do is they can go to the homepage of my website, and at the bottom it has my cell phone and my email. They can contact me. If they just want to have a conversation, we'll have a conversation. Now, if they have a particular need and we initiate a coaching engagement, then yeah, we'll have a fee for that. But to just have the conversation and get to know and kind of connect in a little bit, there's been a few times where a 5-minute conversation with somebody made a radical difference to them.
Wow.
And they didn't need me as a coach at that point. And it was like, okay. And so, yeah, just connecting with people, finding out, having a conversation, and then who knows if they have a need of something, yeah, we'll put something together.
Well, it demonstrates that you truly are there because you have a passion to help people, and whatever direction that goes in, then that's what is meant to be.
There you go. There you go, man.
Randy, always great having you on. Appreciate you and thank you, and look forward next time we get together.
I look forward to it too, man. I hope you have a great weekend.
You too. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.